Hey guys, welcome back to Out of Left Field. Happy Thanksgiving to you and yours. Hope it has been a blessed and very enjoyable time with family and not a stressful, crazy one, as it has been really for Chris and I the last couple of weeks with travel and jobs, all kind of stuff. But hope you all have had just a fantastic holiday. We are proud to be back, happy to be back with you. A lot has transpired through Major League Baseball as we are into really getting into the first full month of the postseason. Some exciting stuff on the way for you the next couple of weeks that we'll get to. We don't want to tease too much until we know for sure it's going to happen. But definitely we have a couple of guests lined up that I think that you guys are really going to enjoy. So make sure to keep tuning in for that. As soon as we get confirmation on those, we will let you all know and get you guys really primed and excited for that. Man, without any further ado, we have plenty of time to kind of banter and talk. Well, I mean, we saw each other a couple of weeks ago, so it can't be, it's been kind of had a week without seeing you a whole lot, so that was kind of swell. But let's put the ball in play on this, and we'll start off a little melancholy because we're going to probably end up kind of getting a little bit more laughing, emotional, having a good time, and I don't want to kind of try and bring the mood down mid-show. So we'll kind of start off quiet, and we'll build to the crescendo, as I'm sure you enjoy, being the English teacher and the arts lover that you are. So, yes, it's been a while. Obviously, it's been a while since we have been on with you all. And one thing that happened really, a couple of days, I think it was, I want to say it was Tuesday, before 2 days before you got to Florida, the Tuesday after our last show. I saw just some horrible news on Twitter that I was waiting to see if it was going to be confirmed, and unfortunately it was confirmed, and that is that former big league pitcher, Philadelphia Phillies and Blue Jays All-Star, in my book, a surefire Hall of Famer in Roy Halladay, passed away off the Gulf Coast, the west side of Florida, after a small private plane that he had bought within the last month or so crashed into the Gulf. He was the only passenger on board, the pilot on board that plane, and unfortunately did not survive when the plane hit the water. So our deepest condolences, obviously a little bit late, to all of his fans, his family, the Blue Jays organizations, the Phillies organization. One of the few, I think only the second person in history, if I'm correct, I could be off there, but to throw a no-hitter in the playoffs. Obviously, he threw a perfect game and then a no-hitter in the divisional series the same year, which was just, if that doesn't go ahead and make your mark in the Hall of Fame, I don't really know what does. But I still remember Carlos Ruiz just jumping into his arms with the no-no, and you kind of forget the perfecto that happened just 5 or 6 months prior. In that year. So a very, very good pitcher, good guy, gone much too early, unfortunately, after he passed away, I believe at the age of, 40?
Yeah. Obviously, at 40 years old, obviously far earlier than you would expect. Another young, relatively young MLB player killed in an avoidable accident. And the reason I say in an avoidable accident is this is not an accident that was caused by a failure on the plane's part or mechanical failure of any kind. It came out recently that it looks like Halladay was having a little bit too much fun in this new plane of his, and may have made a mistake and led to his own death. And, this is just a year or so after the death of Jose Fernandez, who also passed away in a completely avoidable incident. Obviously not on the same level as far as what caused the issue, but both of these deaths were avoidable. And it kind of throws things into sharp relief as far as what are these guys doing outside of baseball that's hazardous to their health, and things like Halladay doing tricks in his plane and crashing, and Fernandez with the issues with the drugs and alcohol and the boat, and even things like Madison Bumgarner dirt biking after a game and then hurting himself and being out for most season. It really throws into sharp relief the kind of things that these guys are doing.
And I hate to. It is, and I hate to say it in a sense, and this is not quite on the same token, but we had Giordano Ventura beginning of the year in January, who just, and we've seen. I think we had another player recently, a young player, and I forget the name, in car crashes just in their home countries that don't have the kind of road systems and things that we do, and we've seen two or three. I think 3 different players die in car crashes alone in their native countries just because of the road systems there and bad weather and whatnot. So a very we said a very sad situation. Our thoughts and prayers with his family for many years to come, as he had a couple of sons, 2 young boys, in their late teens, early 20s, who have a lifetime to go, with their father gone much too young.
And as you said, I don't want to try to make light of the situation, but on a positive note, if there is a positive note to this situation, it's that Halladay was alone in the plane.
Right.
The plane didn't hit anything else or anyone else.
Right.
Unlike Jose Fernandez's situation.
And the saddest thing there is, his wife had said, she said, I didn't want him to have the plane. I had reservations about him getting the plane. I fought with him against getting the plane, but he said he wanted it. He went out. And
the National Transportation Safety Board. The National Transportation Safety Board has said that these small, fast, maneuverable planes are becoming more and more popular, and they're getting increasingly dangerous because even a typical pilot's license doesn't prepare you to handle a plane this small, this fast, and this maneuverable. It's the idea of having a driver's license and trying to go drive a Formula One race car through a road course at 180 miles an hour. So our thoughts and prayers with him and all the players that we have lost. And you're exactly right. That's really what you've seen is, guys just something my father always said, was with the way he described riding a motorcycle is if you don't respect the bike will make you respect it. And, doing 35 miles an hour and maybe you lay the bike down, you can learn to respect it the hard way with some cuts, scrapes, and some road rash. You're going 100 plus miles an hour on a plane, a couple hundred feet out, in the air, and you hit water. It's a little bit harder to come back from. So again, thoughts and prayers, condolences to his family and those teams. On a different note, still a player kind of leaving in a brighter sense after winning it's hard to really believe, as much as he's been around, as great of a player, great of a guy as he was, after finally winning a World Series championship and getting a ring on his finger, Carlos Beltran has decided to hang it up after 2 decades in the major leagues. A 9-time All-Star, ends his career with a 279, 350, 486 slash line. So, slugging of over 800, 435 dingers, over 11,000 plate appearances. Easily one of the best players this century, this decade, this millennium. A guy who I think we will certainly be talking about in the Hall of Fame discussion here in the next 5-6 years. No, I completely agree. And Beltran had a perfect sort of quote regarding why he decided to retire. He said, and quote, "At the beginning of this year, being in Houston while my family was in New York, it was the first time I've been away from my family for months. I told my wife, Jessica, I really missed the family. I wanted to be with them. So I was contemplating retirement at the end of the year. I said, hopefully we can get to a World Series and win the World Series so I can go home on a happy note." And I think he did exactly what he hoped he could do at the beginning of the year. And, he's got a long and storied career. I was just looking at pictures of him when he was on the Royals, and he looks like such a young, excited kid. And when he won the World Series here this year, and he was going around hugging all the other Astros, he still looked like a young, excited kid after 20 years in the major leagues at 40 years of age. So obviously he had a great time being who he was to the many organizations that he played for. And I think baseball is better for it.
And that's the key thing for me is the number of organizations. To a point, you kind of think of him as a journeyman, which is, I mean, a 9-time All-Star is hard to think of a guy kind of being a journeyman moving around. You know, we said 9-time All-Star, 3-time Gold Glover in 06, 07, and 08, a 2-time Silver Slugger in 06, 07, won Rookie of the Year with the Royals in 1999, finished as high as 4th in the MVP voting in 06. But, I mean, play for the Royals, the Astros halfway through the 04 year, played for the Mets until 2011, went with the Giants, stayed there for the rest of 11, the Cardinals for 2 years, the Yankees for 2.5 seasons, to Texas last year when they made the push, and then this year, you know, to Houston. So it's, yeah, I mean, he bounced around, but at the end of the day, he bounced around because he was that damn good of a player. He bounced around because he was getting traded from teams that had no shot at things at the end of a contract, and we're trying, you know, and he's going to a team who felt that they had a chance to make a big run.
No, I completely agree, and he was great. He was great in every role that he played. I don't think that I saw a single season in which Carlos Beltran was not an effective player, was not the sort of player that you want on your team. He's a great clubhouse guy. He's a great overall player. And let's not forget the career numbers that this guy's putting up. He's a 279 career hitter, 350 on base, a 486 slugging. I mean, those are great numbers as far as a 20-year career goes.
Right.
You know, there are very few years where he falls down into numbers that you would look at and say, well, those are a little bit low. And realistically, this year was a down year for him. 231, 283 on base, slugging 383 with a 666 OPS. But
magical number for him, I guess.
Still got the job done. Yeah, he still got the job done. But I mean, 2016, he was hitting 304 in New York. It still hit 280 in Texas. Ended up at a 295 average last year. I mean, last year was his 19th season in Major League Baseball, and he's hit 295. So you can't say that the guy was ever really down and out. He was just an all-around good player basically all the time.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, the fact that he had a chance to play, I mean, he played, you know, if you average out almost 15 full seasons, almost 16 full seasons actually, you know, if you round out the numbers. And let me apologize. My dog started barking. That's what you heard in the background. So thank you for picking that up and running with it. Because I know, I mean, obviously it helps. We both have our own dogs. But you think of a guy here, okay, you know, we saw him begin to strike out, I think, a little bit more in the tail end of his career. You know, he had 120 plus strikeouts 3 times in the beginning of his career, and then really began to kind of tape that off. Only at the end of by the end of everything, only had 4 or 5, 6, 7, 8 total seasons of 100 strikeouts or more, which isn't bad. You think of how long he played. He finishes with 5 shy of 1,800 strikeouts, but he also walked almost 1,100 times, which, I mean, when you're looking at less than a 2 strikeout to 1 walk ratio, in this day and age, for as long as he played and as consistent as he played, I mean, that's the kind of guy who you're going to see whenever he's ready and whoever he wants to go to be a hitting coach, and I think a very, very prolific hitting coach in Major League Baseball. We talked about last year when we started the show when Ichiro was, you know, obviously had passed Pete Rose in cumulative hits between his Japanese and his major league career, and saying that Ichiro would be a very different type of hitting coach, but one who could, I think, at a point kind of change the way that hitters play the game. Beltran is a guy who kind of, I don't want to say assimilated, but he allowed his game to stay what it was while still kind of bending with the ebb and the flow of how the game changed. He continued to stay a prolific hitter, a good piece of multiple ball clubs, of championship contender ball clubs, while not totally bending, to what the newfangled, kind of get off my lawn, if you will, kind of way that baseball was going. And that's what I think was the most impressive by him, is that he was able to kind of keep his identity as a hitter, if you will, and play his game while still being able to stay within the way the game would change throughout his 2-decade-long career.
Right, and let's not forget that he was never any slouch, really, in any segment of his career. 435 home runs, 312 stolen bases. He was a threat in the box. He was a threat on the base paths. And I know this isn't really something that we like to look at a lot of times for hitters because it doesn't really give you an idea of much. But just to point out that he was a frightening enough hitter that of those 1,084 walks, nearly 10% of them, 104 of them, were intentional. So, I mean, I realize that over the course of that long of a career, that seems like, well, you kind of expect that. But we're talking about a guy who at times in his career was walked 13, 15, 10, 2 times 10 times in a single season, intentionally given free passes. And when you go back and look at those years, right, 15 free passes, he hit 32 home runs that year. Obviously, the guy was frightening enough or got into situations where he was scary enough of a hitter that they decided to just put him on base. And that's not something you can say of everybody. Especially of a lot of guys who played who look like journeymen from their list of teams that they've played for.
Right. And I think kind of the crazy thing here, when it's hard to look at a guy who is who's able to club 435 long balls, who, as I'm going down his numbers here, never had a season in which he slugged over 600. His best was in 2006 when he finished 4th in the MVP at 594. Now, granted, he also only had one season, that was this year, where he slugged below 400. He slugged 383. He said down year, hit 231, but I mean, overall, this guy was the pillar of consistency. You knew what you were going to get. Yeah, he had his peaks and his valleys, but that's baseball. But, I mean, a guy, again, I think a surefire, good guy all the way through the game, inside and out. Obviously, if you haven't heard, he set up a hurricane relief fund for Puerto Rico, his home country. He loved playing in the WBC, had the beard dyed blonde, the hair dyed blonde, but donated $1 million into that relief fund immediately from his own family. A guy who embodies what Major League Baseball is supposed to be, played by the rules, did things the right way, and in my mind is a surefire Hall of Famer. I think should be he's a surefire Hall of Famer. I won't say he's going to be a first ballot guy, but should definitely get a healthy percentage of the vote, and I think we'll be seeing the Hall within the first 3 years of his candidacy. The ironic thing here, as we kind of pre-planned the show, we had forgotten. Honestly, it's been 2 weeks. I told him, shoot, man. I said, Chris, Beltran retired. We got to go ahead and congratulate him on a great career. And the place that we put him within the show, ironically, we go from a guy who followed the rules and very, very clearly embodied what baseball should be, to a team and a general manager who has, not I think that's the easiest way to put it.
That's a nice way to put it
I
there,
thought
Graham.
so.
I appreciate you.
So we mentioned this, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago when this came out, and this was huge. And this was a story about obviously my boyhood team, the Atlanta Braves, that there was some really big issues that were coming through in reference to the way that the Braves and their general manager, former general manager, John Coppola, had dealt with the international signing period and how they were funneling money through agents to offer players bigger signing bonuses, but circumventing the proper way those bonuses were to be divvied out, allowing them to sign more players. After a thorough and exhaustive investigation through which the commissioner of baseball, Rob Manfred, said that the Braves were completely, they were involved with, they were cooperative with, it's basically
complicit.
Yes. Well, yes, they were complicit in the investigation and they were cooperative throughout some massive, in my, at least in my time, really staying as deeply focused into baseball, covering baseball as we do here on Out of Left Field with the Grueling Truth Network. This is a precedent-setting, statement that Rob Manfred made, and he has handed down some precedent-setting punishment here. That, I mean, I know you said you agree with. You like to see it. I think at the end of the day, I mean, someone's going to learn, and John Coppola kind of, I guess, iced this whole. Actually, this is probably kind of the base of the cake.
John Coppola learned.
He gone. He has received a lifetime ban from the commissioner's office, and also banned international scouting director Gordon Blakely for 1 year. Blakely has said that he disagrees with his suspensions. Everything that he did was following in the orders of his superiors. You and I, it's tough, man. And we talked about in the Army a ton of integrity, honor, and doing things the right way. And when you get an illegal order, you don't follow it. But man, I mean, when your career's on the line, it's a lot easier said than done. I'm not condoning what he did, but I think that every single person who has been in a leadership position or a position where you're trying to advance can empathize. And if I'm using the wrong word there, English guy, let me know. I'll change it to the right one, which would be sympathize. But I think we can all identify. That's the easier way with what Blakely felt, during those couple of years. But a 1 year ban for him, a lifetime ban for Coppola, and and you're going to talk about this. There's a lot more levied down here towards the signees than just these 2 bans on these 2 guys.
Well, and not only that, but levied against the Braves as an organization. The Braves have gotten hurt badly by this. And the thing is, they are complicit. And despite being very open and very that's not the right word. Despite being very open with the investigation, they are complicit. They're cooperative. Thank you.
You're welcome.
They are complicit in the things that were done here, and because of that, they've been hurt pretty badly. First of all, Coppola gone forever. He joins a very short list of names of people who are never allowed to be associated with Major League Baseball again. We're talking guys like Sulis Joe Jackson, Jose Canseco.
There's one other guy I can't think of.
That one guy. What did he do? Oh, yeah. Pete Rose. And now John Coppola. Guys who've been banned for life from the game of baseball. And that is not the best of company to be in. But the Braves are going to lose 13 prospects who were signed.
Let me explain kind of what happened here, because that's what got screwy. Is, okay, what did they do? And this is, and I'm giving you a direct quote here from the memorandum and a statement that from the commissioner's office to what was said. And basically, he said that the investigation established that the Braves circumvented international signing rules from 2015 through this year in 2017. During the 2015-2016 international signing period, the Braves signed 5 players that were subject to the signing bonus pool to contracts containing signing bonuses lower than the bonuses the club had agreed to provide. So giving them one bonus that they're promising, they're signing them to less. The problem here is that the Braves then provided the additional bonus money that was promised to those players by inflating the signing bonus of another player who was exempt from that signing pool because he qualified as a, quote, foreign professional under MLB rules. So basically here, what the Braves did here is that they promised certain players a certain contract with bonus. They paid them a smaller amount of the bonus and then funneled that money around the corner through another player and agent to funnel back those players to still give them what they were promised, but doing it in a way that allowed them more freedom to sign additional players. So had the club signed the 5 players to contracts containing their actual bonuses, the Braves would have exceeded their signing bonus pool by more than 5% and would have been, under MLB rules, restricted from signing any players during the next 2 signing periods for contracts with bonuses greater than $300,000. So for a 15, 16, 17, 3-year period, the Braves went above and beyond getting around this and signed, as Chris is going to tell you, a bunch more players than they should have, and those signings are written in sand?
Right, exactly. And so 13 total prospects are going to be lost from the Brave organization, which is a huge deal. 13 total prospects, including guys like Kevin Maitan from Venezuela, another Venezuelan, Abraham Gutierrez, Dominican shortstop Junior Severino, Dominican right-hander Juan Contreras, Dominican
Maitan
shortstop
is a huge one. Maitan is, I mean, big one. He didn't shine that much in low A, but I mean that is a name that has been coveted by teams.
Right. Another Dominican right-hander, Jeffrey De Rosario, Juan Carlos Negrete from Cuba, Levon Soto from Venezuela, and a Colombian right-hander named Guillermo Zuniga. All guys those 9 guys all got signing bonuses above and beyond what they should have gotten from the Braves. $4.25 million for Maitan, $353 for Gutierrez, and over $1 million for 8 others, plus $350,000 for Guillermo Zuniga. And then 3 players that they signed for $300,000 bonuses were set free because they gave additional money to their agents by signing others to deals with what the Major League Baseball called inflated bonuses. So Antonio Sucre, Brandon Mesquita, and Angel Rojas are all going to be set free by the Braves. And then really importantly, in my opinion at least, is Ji-hwan Bae, the Korean shortstop, who got a $300,000 signing bonus, but his contract and signing bonuses were all rejected by Major League Baseball because the sides agreed to compensation outside the contract. That's $16.48 million in signing bonuses that they're going to lose.
And let's not forget this one. And there were so many names. Forgive me if I missed this one. But a kid named Robert, I think it's Poisson, or I'm not quite sure. Puason.
Poisson, yes.
Poisson, yes. But so this is the funky one. Is he agreed, or the Braves agreed to sign 6 players to inflated bonuses, but there was an agreement with him with this player or his agent in exchange for a commitment that Poisson would sign with the club in the 1920 period. So basically, the Braves said, hey, we'll give you these 6 guys with this big bonus if, when Robert's available to sign in a couple of years, he's wearing that, he's doing that tomahawk chop in our uniform.
Right.
Obviously,
and we're talking about
not going to happen. They are now restricted from being able to sign him. They cannot even they cannot talk to him at all.
Right, and we're talking about a 14-year-old shortstop who has garnered that much attention from major league clubs that now the Atlanta Braves are forbidden from even making a run at.
And I think, to me, just saying that, I mean, it gives you a whole – I mean, and we don't think about this as much. We watch the game. We love the game. But we forget, I think, that a lot of these kids in the Dominican Republic, in the Caribbean islands, in Puerto Rico, I mean, they will go to specialized schools to major in baseball. I mean, they will go to schools specifically to be scouted, to be known as to who they are. It is their AAU, USSSA travel ball program that they eat, breathe, sleep. I mean, they do everything from sun up to sundown, baseball and school related. And yeah, okay, that's great. You guys think that the NCAA football and basketball recruiting is cutthroat? Try doing this.
Yeah.
It is.
We're starting at 12 years old with some of these kids.
We live in such ignorant bliss as to how a lot of these kids, what they go through to try and make it into the big. Some do it by choice. Some do it just to try and get out of their country, when they face death and danger just to get a better life. I mean, we take for granted what we have in this country and also what these kids have to go through just to entertain us and try and make a lot of bucks.
So, Commissioner Manfred says that stripping the Braves of these 13 players is not sufficient punishment. And here's where it really gets bad for the Braves. Additional sanctions are warranted, quote, he said, quote, additional sanctions are warranted to penalize the club for violations committed by its employees, end quote. The Braves will now be prohibited from signing any international player for more than $10,000 during the 2019 or 2019-20 signing period, which is the first signing period that they're going to be eligible to sign without sanction. And their international signing bonus pool for 2021 is going to be reduced by 50%, which is still going to hurt them severely. And they already cannot give international signing bonuses of more than $300,000 for 17-18 and 18-19 as penalties for exceeding their previous signing bonus pools. Manfred said, quote, he intends to discipline other Braves international baseball operations employees who had participated in the misconduct. That includes the lifetime ban on Coppola and anyone else that this investigation finds as culpable or guilty of these grave violations. The bottom line is that we're basically coming into a time now where the Braves are, for the next 3 or 4 years, going to be forced, 5 years really, going to be forced to find all their talent from non-amateur sources.
Right.
And the problem with
or at least American-based amateur sources.
Or American amateur sources. And the problem with that is this hurts them because they've gone and hurt them again, because even in the amateur draft, they've now forfeited their third-round draft pick in the amateur draft, which hurts them yet again because not only can they no longer sign international players, but now they lose their American amateur third-round draft pick for this upcoming amateur draft. So Is this a line in the sand? I think so. Is Manfred right to draw a line in the sand over stuff like this? Absolutely. Should Manfred have drawn a clearer line in the sand with things like the San Diego Padres GM, who only got a 30-day suspension for lying about the health of his players? Yes. But I like this move because I think that this sort of misconduct is just as egregious as any other misconduct that we discuss on the show, up to and including the use of performance-enhancing drugs by other players and lying about the health of players before you trade them off to other teams for your own benefit.
Well, and the hard thing here is, I mean, you got how many people, and that's, I think, where it becomes that's where I think it becomes similar to what we had in San Diego. How many people had to be complicit in this? That's what you got to think about. How many had to know what? I mean, we know that Gordon Blakely did, and again, his issue is that, well, I was just following the orders myself. I get that, but you know what you're doing is illegal. Plus, at the end of that statement, Manfred is, in that memo is quoted saying, "My staff will speak to the Players Association and officials in the Dominican Republic regarding appropriate consequences for the representatives of the players who intentionally participated in schemes to circumvent our rules, none of whom are certified by the Players Association, end quote. So now those players,
and I think that
you
is
can
key.
play. Yes, exactly, and you can play that. Okay, well maybe they were playing dumb. They're doing what they were told, and you know what? Maybe some of them were. But if you are those representatives, if you're those agents, I'm also surprised that Rob Manfred has not done something to where, basically he prevents those agents from being able to work in the Major League Baseball circles. Because now you have agents who also are paid, who are supposed to know what is permitted by Major League Baseball in reference to their client, and they are purposely trying to get around those rules to help a team. Well, that's not really helping your client. Yeah, your client's getting what they were promised, but you're also now putting your client in a spot where, let's say that he got signed in 2015 and he's struggled. He has not performed well. But the Braves are willing to say, hey, you know what? It's been rough. We're going to. Other teams might look at him and go, nothing special. So now, in doing this, you could have lost your client a job. I doubt that's the case with most of these guys. Maybe none of them are going to be in this position. But, I mean, you have in a sense right here, put your career in a very, very precarious spot where now you are on everyone's radar. So now every team that deals with you has to know in the back of their mind, Major League Baseball is going to be looking over our shoulder to see what they're doing, what we're doing with them, and are they following the rules, or are we trying to get around something?
Well, exactly. And one of the biggest issues here, I think, for me, is exactly what you said. Too often we see the perpetrators of this sort of misconduct be punished only on the side of the executives and employees of the teams in Major League Baseball. And we don't see any punishment come down for the people in the position to set these players up. That is, the representatives and agents who are complicit in this activity, just as complicit as the general managers and the talent scouts and everyone else who work for the organizations. I think that by indicating that you're going to bring some heat down on the guys who did this, as far as the agents who represent these guys, and don't get me wrong, I don't want to see anything come down against the ball players themselves, because the ball players really are just kind of along for the ride. Once the agent gets a hold of them and they have a contract with an agent, they're really just along with the ride as far as how they get signed. But for employees of Major League Baseball and for agents themselves to say things like, I was just doing what I was told, I was just following orders, rings hollow with me. And it rings hollow with me not only as an outsider looking into this entire situation, but it rings hollow to me as a veteran of the military. Because how many times have we seen atrocities committed by people who were, quote unquote, just following orders? I don't want to hear it. I want to hear you say, no, I didn't do this because I knew it was wrong, whether I was following orders or not. It's not good enough for you to say, oh, well, I was following orders, I should get a pass. I'm sorry, you don't get a pass from me. That's just not really how it's going to work. I think
the hard thing
that they're going to lose another draftee.
Well,
because they're going to lose their pick. They're going to lose their pick, right?
So basically, what happened, and let me respond to your first point. Is I agree, and I understand. And obviously, we both had our time together in the military. I think for the average fan, it's hard to say, okay, well, the military orders is life and death. And I understand that there is a big difference between military orders that can lead to you or people in your unit getting killed and following the orders of a GM of a baseball team. We get that. And yes, that is a hard line to follow. But I'll tell you, if it's me, if I'm the owner of a team, the GM of a team, and I got fired, well, why'd you get fired? Because I refused to do this for John Coppola when he told me to do it with these signees. If I'm a GM, I I know I've got a guy with good character in my organization that I now want to sign to be part of my team. And B, I'm going to Major League Baseball. You be the whistleblower, and then, hey, now maybe you even have some favor in the commissioner's office. I'm not saying be a tattletale, but in a world like this where putting a rival team in that kind of predicament, like the Astros and the Cardinals, all that kind of stuff, it gives you a leg up on the competition, and it gives you a chance to maybe sign a couple of those draftees that you wanted. In reference to what you were mentioning, the big thing is, or the question of, well, why are they losing? If this is all international, why are they losing a draft pick in the amateur draft? Because this year they owed an offer of quote extra benefits to the 2017 draftee Drew Waters. Therefore, the Braves will forfeit their third-round pick in next summer's draft. So yes, this is something that is going to be. It will send wide ripples through Major League Baseball. The big thing here, and this is what I think that you want to see, at least it puts the Braves in a better position now, is that in the opening of the commissioner's statement, he said, quote, "I am confident that Terry McGurk, John Schuerholz, Alex Anthopoulos, and their staffs have and will put in place procedures to ensure that this type of conduct never occurs again, and which will allow the club to emerge from this difficult period as the strong and respected franchise that it has always been." And they have been that strong and respected franchise. John Schuerholz, a guy who is a Hall of Famer, as a GM, the GM for years of the Braves, and the prime of the Braves throughout the 1990s and into the 2000s. His fingerprints are all over the Braves organization with Bobby Cox and crew. So yes, that they have good things in place. And the Braves issued a statement as we close out this segment saying, quote, "Today, Major League Baseball informed the Atlanta Braves organization of sanctions being levied as a result of their investigation. As MLB stated, the Braves cooperated fully throughout this investigation, and we understand and accept the decision regarding the penalties that have been handed down. As we expressed last week, our organization has not lived up to the standard our fans expect from us and we expect from ourselves. For that, we apologize. We are instituting the changes necessary to prevent this from ever happening again and remain excited about the future of Braves baseball. We do not plan to comment further on this matter." Quote. We will see what happens from there. Braves CEO Terry McGurk last month told Tim Tucker of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, "I don't think there will be any questions unanswered when we are able to discuss it." So obviously this has been, every stone has been unturned. I certainly hope this is everything, that everything has been exhausted. There's nothing else to be found. If there is, the Braves are going to be it's going to be deep for a while. And this is a team who was expected, as we talked to Hall of Famers Tom Glavine and John Smoltz earlier this year, that were expected in the next year or so in 2018 and beyond to be on the rise and have a chance to make a little bit of waves in the NL East. And now what looks good for them, currently in their, where they sit now, man, those guys waiting in the wings just got really, really thin. As we move on, so needless to say, our postseason picks were a trite sad. We weren't the best on top of that. I unfortunately had to buy somebody a drink.
Wait a minute. I would like to point out that we picked Dodgers-Astros for a World Series all the way back at the All-Star break.
Fair enough. But
everything else was a complete mess, with the exception of me picking the Astros at 7. Everything else was a complete mess.
Yeah, we aren't talking about old stuff. We don't have to bring up old stuff, so you can just relax. There's no need to bring up that kind of stuff.
That Jack and Coke that you owed me was delicious. I enjoyed it.
Swell. That's
mostly
swell.
Because you owed it to me for being right while you were wrong.
You're number one in my book, Chris.
Oh, wow. So let's move on to the things that we did a little bit better as far as predictions, because I think we pretty much nailed the end of the season.
Hey, I told you, Rookie of the Year, nailed it. I mean, granted, it didn't take.
I'm pretty sure we knew that. We knew that back in May.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't take baseball. Didn't. Yeah, I mean, I know.
So, Rookie of the Year, let's start there since you brought it up. Rookie of the Year, obviously Aaron Judge, who set a rookie record with. What's that?
Judge Bellinger, next.
Aaron Judge set a rookie record with an AL leading 52 home runs in his, rookie year. Played more like a sophomore year because of the amount of playing time that he got last year, but he scored 128 times, drove in another 114 with a 284, 422, 627 slash, and a 1.049 OPS. We all know that Judge was not afraid to strike out. He struck out pretty regularly, but it doesn't look like the number of strikeouts that he incurred did anything to damage the numbers that he put up over the course of the year, especially that 1.049 OPS. There's been some talk about whether or not he was the guy. I think that he was at the end of the day. I think he was the guy just for his full season output. Cody Bellinger. It only took him 132 games to set the National League rookie record at 39. Slash line of 267, 352, 581. He's the second consecutive Dodger to win National League Rookie of the Year. Obviously, Corey Seager won it last year, also a very deserving player. And I think that if this is the indication of what's coming out of the Dodgers farm system, first Corey Seager and then Cody Bellinger, I think the rest of the league needs to be worried at this point. 2 consecutive Rookies of the Year, that's no small thing.
I think the commissioner's office might have some investigating to do. Actually, no, I'm sorry. That would actually be your line as the Giants fan. But no, you're right. I mean, Bellinger out of nowhere. And the coolest thing, when he came up, there was a video, and I want to say it was on Facebook somewhere. I don't know if it was from the Dodgers or what, or it was on a baseball page. But they actually had a camera in there when Bellinger signed his 10-day contract. That's right, folks. If you don't recall, Cody Bellinger came up on a 10-day and then just, did a lot of crap that kind of made you not send him back down to the minor leagues. Had what was one of the most prolific offensive rookie seasons we've seen in recent memory. Did not produce that way in the postseason, and we discussed that. We and I talked with a bunch of people about this. That it seemed to me, for whatever reason, that World Series, that everything that had gotten Altuve to be the ALCS MVP had made these guys so good. The Altuve, Correa, and the young Bellinger, they pressed way too much, and just it's what it made for a great, like I said, made for a great first 6 and then a yawner number 7. But no, I don't think that there was any. I don't think that there was any really anything there. I mean, I think the best race when it came with Judge was probably for AL MVP, which, I mean, I think if I remember, he finished second in. But I mean, it's yeah, Rookie of the Year was a no-brainer. When it came to Manager of the Year, Paul Molitor, again, to me, was a no-brainer. Had did something with the Twins that none of us saw coming and did fantastic. Like I said, I think that
too. I mean,
right.
After a conversation with you and at your recommendation, I chose Torey Lovullo as my pick for National League Manager of the Year, and it turned out to go exactly the right way. They flip-flopped their records from last year at 69 and 93 to 93 and 69. I think that just their ability to have done that in a single year, and again, Paul Molitor, like you were saying, goes from losing 100 games one season to being in the postseason the following season. These are two guys that obviously came into those teams ready, willing, and able to do whatever it took to turn them around, and succeeded in doing so.
They do, and I was a little bothered at first that Craig Counsell was kind of quietly left behind, but at the end of the day, he took 3 first-place votes. He finished 4th, which, all right, here are your top 5 in the National League. Lovullo, 18 first-place votes, 111 voting points in the BBWAA system, all right? You had 5 first-place votes, and mind you, Lovullo won. He doubled the margin of number 2. So Lovullo won. Dave Roberts came up second, which, okay. Dodgers had a great year, struggled at the tail end of the year, but still did very well. Buddy Black of the Rockies finished 3rd, took that team from obscurity last year, did very well with them this year. Craig Counsell was 4th, and Dusty Baker was 5th. I think when you look at the fact that, okay, all 3 managers who made the playoffs finished 1, 2, 3 in whichever order you want to take them in, no, that's not normally what you're going to judge. Yes, you want to see a postseason berth, but I think at this point, the way the Dodgers looked for the majority of that year, I don't have a problem with Dave Roberts finishing 2. Lovullo, like you said, turned that team around, flipped their win-loss record. They were a great team to watch play. And granted, they were kind of flat against the Cubs on the series that we went to when I was in Arizona, but still, they had a great year. And Bud Black did something with the Rockies, who we thought might have been a year or 2 out, and he went ahead and got those guys to gel and really show what they're capable of. So Craig Counsell, yes, in a relatively kind of weak and just weird, if you will, as the best way I can think of, NL Central. You know what? End of the day, finishing 4th, I can sit comfortably with that. I don't mind that, and I was kind of taking a flyer on him anyway. But yeah, I'm okay with that, and I think Paul Molitor, at the end of the day, was, to me, he was absolutely. That was a no-brainer. Yeah, you could go ahead and maybe throw in a Joe Girardi in there, who I think Joe Girardi would have been an easy, an easy number 2. But actually, but I'll go ahead and here's how it breaks down. Molitor with 18 first-place votes finishes 1st. Terry Francona finished 2nd. He was just under 30 points behind. A.J. Hinch of the Astros finishes 3rd. Yankees manager Joe Girardi 4th, and that rounded out the top 4 in the AL. So not bad. I think we did well. I think Molitor obviously the most deserving of that group, what he did with that crew, and hats off to him with that new deal as well for the Twinkies.
So let's move on to the big ones, the two biggies. We'll start with the Cy Young. Nailed it. Scherzer, Kluber. I don't think that there was really any argument to be. Well, that's not true. There was a little bit of argument to be made in the American League. Chris Sale very well could have taken that Cy Young Award home, although he did sort of give it up at the end of the season there a little bit. Did not perform well, although it doesn't have any bearing on it. Did not perform well.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Jason Vargas kind of tapered off too, which is a bummer for us.
Right. Unfortunately, though it doesn't have any bearing on it, did not perform well in the playoffs. But come on, 18-4 with a 2.25, led Major League Baseball with his 2.25 ERA and 265 strikeouts. There's really, and not to mention that from June forward, a 1.62 ERA from Kluber from June through September. No small feat there. I really think that, that's a very well-deserved award for him. There was a little bit of discussion from you and me. We thought maybe he missed a little bit more time than he actually did. only missed about five or six starts with that injury that we thought was
I think it was 4 or 5.
long.
Yeah, I think four or 5 starts. That's it. Yeah.
Right. But Max Scherzer, I mean, come on. Max Scherzer 16-6, career best 2.51 ERA, and a 0.90 WHIP and 268 strikeouts.
I want you to think about something. Just I want you to wrap your feeble mind around this concept here. There was one point throughout the 2017 season where Scherzer's ERA crept above 3. May 20th, he gave up 3 runs in 5 innings to bump his ERA to a whopping 3.02. From that point on, he went for 2.30 ERA over his final 141 innings, and he struck out at least 10 hitters in 6 straight outings. Max Scherzer is he is the more controlled Nuke de la Louche, if you will.
Sure. And
those of you who don't know, it's a Beltran reference.
It is. I caught it. Thank you.
No. I wasn't saying you. I was saying for maybe the younger audience who hasn't caught that movie.
Right. The younger crowd who may have not seen. By the way, younger crowd, if you haven't seen Bull Durham, stop this podcast.
What the hell's wrong with you?
And find Bull Durham and watch it. Then come back here and laugh at that joke.
Thank God you said find. I saw the F building. I'm like, oh, I know you love baseball movies. Please, God, don't drop. Okay, good. He said find. He stressed find.
So the F-bomb will be dropped in Bull Durham more than once.
Yes.
Yeah, Max Scherzer's the obvious guy. I mean, there are very few people in the National League who were going to challenge Scherzer for that award. You can throw names out there. Clayton Kershaw is a guy. Guys on his own team possibly had a chance at challenging him for that award. But at the end of the day, Max Scherzer is just so dominant.
Yeah, and here's how it rounded out to the majority that really made sense. There were a few others that kind of make you scratch your head, but Clayton Kershaw received 25 of 30 second-place votes. He finished second. Zach Greinke and Strasburg each took home a second-place vote as well. You got Kershaw number 2, Strasburg 3rd, Greinke 4th, Kenley Jansen 5th in the balloting.
And
here's where that's kind of odd.
That's interesting, though.
Yeah, 6th was Gio Gonzalez, and then it kind of just got a little muddled from there, which doesn't matter. Here's the one that I want to take you through. We know, obviously, Kluber and Sale were going to be 1 and 2. Duh.
Sure.
After Sale, Luis Severino finished a distant 3rd.
Interesting.
And then to round out the ballot, we went Carlos Carrasco, another Indian, Verley, Justin Verlander, Craig Kimbrell, the Sox closer, Irvin Santana of the Twinkies, and then Marcus Stroman of the Blue Jays.
And so Vargas didn't even finish in the top 5 then.
Exactly.
How interesting is that?
Yep.
Wow. Well, obviously, the American League Cy Young was a hotly contested award this year, even obviously more so than the National League Cy Young was. And hats off to Corey Kluber, but you take a look back at the season that he had.
Vargas he didn't hold on to what we were seeing.
Right.
Ended with an ERA over 4, won 18 games but lost 11 of them. One complete game, 1 shutout, give up 181 hits, 83 earned runs, 27 dingers, walked 58, struck out 134. So yeah, his numbers in that first half were fantastic, and he just kind of tapered off throughout. I mean, played a full season, 32 games, but just kind of tapered off throughout the back end of that Royals season.
So now we come to
head scratcher.
The award that, in my opinion, is the most complicated of the awards given this postseason. Not the AL MVP. The AL MVP MVP was duh. Jose Altuve, who's going to become just the second Astro in history to be named American League's most valuable player, collects his
followed by Aaron Judge, Jose Ramirez, and Mike Trout, 2, 3, and 4, rounding out that ballot.
Collects 27 first-place votes, leads the league with a 346 average, and an American League best 204 hits, which, by the way, this is now his fourth season. His fourth season leading the league in hits. Yeah.
And the crazy thing is, 24 dingers and 32 snagged bags.
Yes. So I think it's fair to say that he distanced himself from the competition easily in those regards. The one that really doesn't make any sense to me, and the one that I disagree with, is Giancarlo Stanton winning the National League MVP over Joey Votto. I know that I said at the midseason when we talked about this that I didn't know if Votto was the guy, but remember, Goldschmidt was having a career year at the time too. Yep. So Goldschmidt
and you gave me a lot of flack. You gave me a ton of flack for the Votto Goldschmidt conversation because Votto wasn't on a winning team. And oddly enough, our picks, Arenado and Blackman, were, I think, basically were kind of the bottom two of the voting. But I'm with you, man. I mean, I was in the hotel talking to you, and I'm like, it feels like it's the Heisman. Like, I mean, what, we just picked Stanton because, okay, well, he had the most dingers and Chick stick the long ball.
Well,
so
and that's the thing.
We'll give it to him.
And I said that this bothers me because they've turned the National League MVP into a home run derby. He hit 59 home runs. Cool. And don't get me wrong, Giancarlo Stanton is a great baseball player, and it is phenomenal to see him come back from the slump that he was in after he took that shot in the face. But to come back and hit 59 home runs, drive in 132 ribs, let's take a look at that number, that 132 rib number. When you look at that number, he drove in 132 rims, but 59 of those was him driving himself around the bags with home runs.
Right. And I love this quote from Jeff Todd on MLB Trade Rumors, and he said in his article on Stanton winning the award, he said, quote, "Of course, he's also an accomplished overall batter and quality defender. While many will disagree with the outcome, he plainly was a worthy candidate given the output of the rest of the field." End quote. Yes, you're right, Jeff. He was a worthy candidate. And yes, you're right, Jeff. We do disagree with the outcome. Yes, it was great, but like you said, a lot of those numbers are inflated because of the way he was hitting. And yes, what he did was amazing. I love seeing it. I wish he had hit 61 or 62, but the numbers of Votto and Goldschmidt with that consistent production and what Goldschmidt, it's just, I get it. Home runs are sexy.
The interesting thing is that he won this award based solely on a single additional third place and a single additional second place vote over Joey Votto. They both had 10 first place votes. Stanton had 10 second place votes to Votto's 9 and 5 third place votes to Votto's 4. He won by 2 points. 2 points. 302 points to 300. It may be, I'm not sure, I haven't gone back and looked at the numbers, I haven't done that in-depth research, but it looks like it may be one of the closest margins of victory for the MVP, at least in recent history, in the National League, maybe even in baseball. And in my opinion, and again, it's just my opinion, it went the wrong way.
And I completely agree. And I picked Goldschmidt at the end, I wanted Goldschmidt. I picked Blackman with everything we discussed, but my original pick was Goldschmidt when we started the show. Then I kind of did a whoopsie frago. But I get that Goldschmidt kind of tapered off, and that's fine. And third place is probably where should have been. But when I start looking at numbers here, Votto played every game. Stanton played 159. 3 games, and that's fine, and I'm cool with that. I'm not saying that should be the big difference. But when I look just at the slash line, and to me what the slash line really represents is the overall productivity of that individual. Votto had an even 100 RBI. Also had 36 home runs. So if we go ahead and give him 24 more home runs or 23 more home runs to even him with Giancarlo Stanton, then he's at 123 and he's 9 ribbies behind Stanton. I get Stanton hit more home runs. Suck it up. That's fine. But let me take you through all of Votto's statistics. Okay, Votto walked 134 times, which is stupid. He struck out 83, which for him is stupid. He struck out the year before 120 times. In 2015, 135 times. Okay, the last time that he went below 100 strikeouts in a season was when he played 62 games in 2014. He played 111 games in 2012 and hit 80 and had 85 Ks. So now you're having a guy who, in this home run friendly, home run centric type of environment, is somehow at 33 years old finding himself more disciplined. Okay, and I mentioned just how impressive I thought that Carlos Beltran's strikeout ratio to walk ratio, right, 1,700 and something to 1,000 and change. Right now, Joey Votto's at 1,087 career strikeouts and 996 walks, Battle. Think about that for a second. Almost a 1-to-1, which is a stupid ratio at the type of hitter that he is. But Votto had a 320 average, a 454 on-base percentage, and slugged 578. Okay, great. You know what? Congratulations, Giancarlo Stanton. You slugged 60 points higher, but your on-base was almost 100 points lower.
Right. And yes, hitting 59 home runs is great as an individual accomplishment, but in my opinion, it doesn't qualify you as the most valuable member of a National League team.
Right. I mean, yes, you were the most powerful piece. And you know what? For your team, you probably are the most valuable piece because, top of the show, like we said, Jose Fernandez, your star pitcher, unfortunately, he's not there. So, yes, you are the most valuable piece of your franchise. But are you the most valuable player? Did you exemplify yourself as being that guy? Yes, 59 home runs is great. And no, the Reds didn't have a snowball's chance in hell of making the playoffs. But I'm sorry, at the end of the day, I'm not going to go ahead and back down when Paul Goldschmidt, who I originally thought would be there, finished just below 300. He said, fell off end of the year, finished below 300 in average, just over 400 on base, and middle fives in slugging. That's great. You were just shy of 1,000 slugging. You know what? I got no problem at all with you finishing third. But I'm sorry. To me, the baseball writers got it wrong. I think we got it wrong. You gave me the grief for it, and I kind of caved to it, and to a point I wish I hadn't, because I really sitting there looking at it thought that Votto, I'm not blaming you for that. I mean, in all sincerity, I'm not saying that it was you, because your point was well received. If you know what, the Reds stink. They're not a good team. And because of that, they kind of play off like a Pac-12 team in college football who, you know what, might be great, but no one really watches them and no one really gives a crap.
Right.
Joey Votto was, to me, I mean,
no one
he
outside
of Ohio.
Cares.
Right. And he had what was, by all accounts, easily statistically the best, the most well-rounded baseball season in 2017. And to me, and I think to you, obviously, you said it's got to be one of the smallest margins of victory. To me, yes, they messed up. It's the beauty of what the vote is. It shows, it's a tip of the cap of how great you were, To me, Votto should have taken home the hardware, and it should have been a tip of the cap to Stanton going, hey, man, almost 60 dingers is amazing. It's awesome that you hit that. But you know what? Because you were so home run centric, not all your stats measure up to a guy who was still 30 home runs deep and able to make himself a force on that diamond.
Right, exactly. Well, in any case, it's been a long couple of weeks since we've been on. Thank everybody. I want to thank everybody for sticking with us and waiting it out and hopefully coming back and listening to this next podcast. It's been a pretty incredible year of baseball, and it's going to be interesting. Even just these couple of weeks of the off season so far has been interesting, but it's going to be interesting to see what goes on as we get into winter meetings. There's talk of a pitch clock. We'll get onto that here pretty soon. That could be a huge deal, the 20-second pitch clock.
And
we'll see how that goes.
The guy we just talked about right now is controlling everything. Giancarlo Stanton is controlling everything. Because until that piece gets either moved or it's officially he ain't going nowhere from the Derek Jeter-led Marlins, we're not going to see a ton of movement until we know what will become of Giancarlo Stanton. It's just he is that domino. And once it hits, holy crap, man, talk about being busy. We are going to be insanely busy.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of fun. But thank everybody for coming back and joining us again. It's been another great week here on Out of Left Field. And if this week's stories are any indication, next week is going to bring us a whole nother.
Yes, sir.
It's going to be a whole nother slew of stories coming to you straight out of left field.
See you guys next week.